Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Spot of Hope. Today we do have a great guest, an honorable guest. Can we call you Your Excellency yet?
Oh, please, no. Far from that.
We do have, of course, Dr.Youssef Mosallam. Youssef, welcome. And
Thank
congratulations. Youssef has been an educator and a principal and an admin. And recently he got appointed to be the Crestwood Public School superintendent. And that, put him today at 22 years of service. Not to mention that he's a professor at both University of Michigan, Dearborn, and Wayne State University. So, Youssef, welcome. You're a dear friend and brother. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you. Congratulations.
No, I appreciate you, and thank you.
Of course, you are more than welcome, and we are more than honored to have you. Big shout out to all of you guys, our audience. Please make sure that you share, make comments, like the video, so we can share all these lovely and motivational stories week after week with everybody. Big shout out to What's Up Media Network for paving us the way every single Tuesday to go live and to motivate and to share such great stories with all of you. Also, big shout out to all the sponsors of What's Up Media Network, Sling Arabic TV, over 130 Arabic channels, BM Sports. If you want to get one free membership for a whole week, all you got to do is get in touch with What's Up Media Network staff. Also, big shout out to our sponsors of A Spot of Hope sponsors. We've got Mangoes, Dearborn, Tahamas, Princess Bakery, Lemo Express, and Adi Sharara, Sunshine 21 Real Estate Agent. Thank you all so very much for believing in us and for trusting our mission in spreading this great education and motivation. And thank you, everybody, once again. If you have any questions or concerns, please make sure that you put that in the comment box and we will pick it up. Dr. Youssef, ahlan wa sahlan to the Spot of Hope, and you are definitely a great hope.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, if I can tell everybody how we met personally. Dr. Youssef, I've heard a lot about Dr. Youssef, guys, about 6 years ago, I think, and when he was fourth sem principal, and myself and my dad walked into his office, and why I wanted to meet with him was people were looking at me like, what do you want from the principal? Do you think he's sitting there doing nothing? He has nothing to do better than meeting with someone like you. And really, that's how we started. And he was nothing but humble, hospitable, a great listener, and a great fighter on behalf of our kids and students. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say that, Youssef, just to tell people, how really we clicked, because after that we became. You are someone that I look up to definitely, and so thank you for all that you do. Dr. Youssef, we're gonna start today by talking about your childhood, where you were born, raised. So.
I don't know how far back you want to go, but first off, I want to appreciate your presentation of our friendship, and you are my friend and my brother, and Khodr, I have so much respect for you and all that you do and your service to the community and to all those in need. So thank you.
The least that I can do.
No, it is my pleasure.
So thank you.
Thank you. So, I'm just like probably 99% of the individuals that are watching this now and who have come up through Dearborn and the Dearborn Heights area and Wayne County area. I am the child of an immigrant father, who came to this country because he was seeking a better life for himself. And, thankfully he met my wonderful mother who, both of them raised me to be hardworking and to always do what's right no matter how difficult the situation is. So that's always been my guide. Real quick, just a quick background of my family. I want to talk about my uncle, my father's brother. He came to this country in the late 50s and early 1960s, literally with the common story of having $5 in his pocket. He came to the United States for an opportunity to build a life where he could bring, my father, his brother, and others to, a new beginning. And my uncle, he found his start in this country. He was actually in the 101st Airborne. So he was one of those people in the Army that jumped out of airplanes. And that was, that's one of the first things he did when he came to this country. When he left the Army, he then took a job at Ford Motor Company, and that's when he called my father. And the irony is my father is the eldest of all the brothers. And he called my father, and he's like, come to the States. I'll get you a job at Ford. and so on. So my father came, they both worked at Ford, they saved enough money, bought a business, and they worked very hard to give myself and my brother and my cousins, you know, the best opportunities possible.
Yes.
And then to take that story even a step further, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, my mother's father, he came to this country, him and my grandmother, in the 1940s.
Really?
And they came here for the same reason. And I always say my grandfather, God rest him, his soul, that he was probably the smartest and most intelligent, non-college educated person I have ever known. He raised, you know, his family, 7 children in the south end of Dearborn on Canterbury and Burley Street. And he worked for General Motors. But the funny story I always tell people, and it's actually inspiring to me, both my uncle, my father, and my grandfather, is that my grandfather, he used to write letters to President Ford, and he'd write these letters in Arabic.
Okay.
And he'd write these letters because he didn't agree with the president's foreign policy. So Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, and he'd write these letters to them. So my uncle, God rest his soul, told me a story how one day he gets a knock on the door.
Okay.
So he opens the door, and there's these 2 gentlemen in black suits, and you know, standing there, and they pull out their badge and they say, you know, we're from the Secret Service. Is there an Abdul Karim Berry that lives here? And my uncle's like, yeah, that's my dad. He's inside. And my grandfather invites them in, and they ask my grandfather, did you write these letters? And my grandfather's like, yes, I wrote these letters. And they're like, well, why'd you write these letters? And my grandfather was like, because I don't agree with the foreign policy, and I wanted to give my opinion to the president. And he invited them, he fed them, he gave them tea and coffee, and my grandmother cooked for them, and they had this long conversation. So they both these gentlemen look at each other, and my uncle tells me that they looked at each other and said, this guy's no harm. You know, he's not a threat to the president. And they left. So the reason why I always tell that story is because from an early age, you know, my grandfather and my uncle, my father, they really taught me that hard work, determination, doesn't mean you always get what you want. But my grandfather, who really had no reason to write the president, but he had a strong belief in what he believed was right, and he didn't care that he was just a worker, immigrant, and worked at GM, that he lived on Canterbury and Burley, and nobody knew who he was. He really believed that if I write these letters, I might be able to make a change.
Yes.
So since then, I've always lived under that philosophy. You know, and growing up, you know, I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. Right. But growing up, it's always been a focus of mine that no matter what I do in life, it's got to be something that is going to positively impact, if not one person, multiple people.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, and I used to say this all the time to my students at Fortson, it's what is the legacy you want to leave behind? You know.
So I heard something. I read it somewhere. I totally forgot where I saw it or by whom, but it said something that, in reference to what you're saying, like let's do something that will be lasting because we won't last. Something like that. I forget the exact wording. I mean, the wording were really amazing, like how these words were lined up. But this is really the meaning. It's that let's do something that will stay because we won't.
Exactly.
You know, stay here forever. Let's keep our reputation, our legacy. And that's obviously you've been working for all of your life. I mean, it's great that your grandfather decided to voice his concern. And even if he thought maybe that he's not going to get that knock on the door one day, maybe they're going to throw him away or something. Mm-hmm. But yet he determined and he dedicated his time to do that nonetheless. Needless, you know, I mean, whether, you know, they're going to listen to him, read him or not. And then that's how, you know, God bless him for bringing you to the States.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's amazing how things work out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're blessed to have you.
Oh, thank you.
You know, and then you grew up in South End Dearborn, though. So
well, I didn't actually grow up in the. I was born in the South End, but at an early age, my parents moved from the South End of Dearborn over to the East End of Dearborn, where they currently reside. They're still there.
Really?
Yeah, just off of Michigan Avenue and Chase Road.
Okay.
In that area, and that's where I grew up.
Okay.
And it was at that time. You know, there weren't many Arabic-speaking students or or individuals in that neighborhood. And actually, the neighborhood was very mixed in terms of different kinds of immigrant families. So like I grew up with, my friends were, Italian, Arabic speaking, Polish, German, African American. We were like the United Nations of friends. And we literally were like one of those Rockwell paintings where you see the kids on the bike with, one kid on the handlebars and one person riding the bike, and then the baseball mitt on the handle, and another kid holding the bat, and they're all riding down the street. And that was us.
Nice.
I mean, that's who we were. And literally every day, and I never forget, the sun would come up, we'd all wake up, we'd all meet, like at 9 in the morning, and we would go to the park until the sun came down.
Wow.
And we literally would play baseball, basketball, football, soccer. We would do anything to keep ourselves busy. And it was that old saying, when the street lights come on, you better be home.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like when we were growing up. And I really think that my childhood, growing up in the Dearborn Heights area, really helped me grow and become who I am. Because, the community of Dearborn and Dearborn Heights, what's beautiful about it is that there are so many of us that have these stories. And we talk about that. And then my grandparents still lived in the South End. So I was literally at Patton Park or Canterbury Park. I was at those parks on a regular basis because I would spend a lot of time my time at my grandparents' house. And the friendships I've made over the years. You mentioned 22 years in education. It's like I can't even fathom that it's been 22 years, because to me, my life has been like one beautiful long day.
Nice.
And it's just, and the older we get, the more we reflect. But the friendships and the people that I've met over the years, my childhood was one that really made me understand, from my parents or from my grandparents and from others, what hard work, but also what doing what is right can do for us.
Yes.
And doing what is right is not easy, because you're always going to have people that are going to be in disagreement, and that's okay. And I tell people, and actually I tell people on a regular basis, especially in education, if you truly can go to bed every night and put your head on the pillow and believe that you gave 100% today and you made decisions that were in the best interest for children and their families, if your naysayers are against you, but you do it in the right way for the right reasons, and you're transparent, people will understand. They may not agree right away, but in time, they will understand. Yes. And a lot of that comes from my childhood and watching my father, who would work 60, 70 hours a week to make sure that my mom and my brother and I, we had a roof over our head, we had food on the table.
Yes.
We had some small luxuries in life. And, I'll admit, my kids are spoiled today compared to the way I was growing up, but that's the whole idea, that every generation gives a little bit more to the next generation. And then there's more of a focus on education.
It's to continue pretty much the prosperity, and nothing wrong with that. As you said, as long as we're doing it right.
Yes.
And for the right reasons.
100%.
Yeah, that's great. So, you were born and raised in Dearborn, and then you were watching your dad and your grandpa, and picking up from them all these values, the importance of hard work and the importance of putting all what you got on the line for the sake of providing your family. And then you went to school. Obviously, you went to Fortson?
I did, Fortson High School, 1994 graduate.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. So you went to Fortson, and then after that, you went to University of Michigan?
No, so actually, another quick story.
Okay, go ahead.
So, graduated in 1994, and I was a senior. We won the state championship for football that year.
Okay, awesome.
And I always had dreams to play football in college, so on and so forth. But at the end of right after graduation, my father became ill, and alhamdulillah, he's okay now.
Alhamdulillah.
But I had to go to work.
Yes.
It wasn't a choice. And I was always working. Since I was a kid, I was always working with my dad and my uncles. And, I was always working because...
But now, when your dad became ill, that time, it became real work.
It became real work. It became where it was now my responsibility to make sure my family has what they need.
Exactly.
Because I'm a firm believer. Our parents, they take care of us. when we get to the point where we can take care of them, we take care of them.
We should, yeah.
Our parents.
It's not a choice.
It's not a choice.
No.
I know, and I will tell people all the time, it is not a choice. You are to
Absolutely.
take care of your parents. You are to sacrifice yourself for your family, and I'm a firm believer in that.
Absolutely.
So I went to work, and I started taking care of my father's business, the family business, and did that for we did it for 3 years.
Okay.
Without
attending college, right?
No college at this
Okay.
point. So I went straight to work.
Okay.
2 years into it, I sat with my dad and I said, Dad, I need to go back to college. I said, it's time for me to go back to college because I really, that's the direction I want to go. My dad was fully supportive.
Nice.
But I couldn't leave my father. So I told my dad, I said, listen, we really need to look at selling the business and then you retire and that's it. And then I'll move on and go to college. So my dad was very supportive, of course. And the third year in the business, I went back to college and I would go in between, I would go open the store in the morning. I would then go to class. I would come back to the store and work and close. And then I would try to take classes as early in the morning as possible before I would have to open the store.
Yes.
So I was balancing work and school for a good year. And then we sold the business. And then I was still working, but not as much. And I started at Henry Ford College. It was community college at the time. And I always tell people, Henry Ford Community College really got me my start.
Yes.
Because it was local, it was affordable, and it helped me balance real life with school. I was one of those kids that was working. I wasn't somebody that was just going to school and studying.
Yes.
Literally, my studying was at work. I would take my books and I would study when it was slow in the store. And that's what I would do. And I drink a lot of Arabic coffee.
Yeah.
Out of beer. That kept me up.
To stay alive.
Just to stay awake. And study. And then after my 2 years at Henry Ford, I then transferred to Wayne State, where I went into education.
What was your associate degree in? Or did you pursue an associate, or just you took the transferable credits?
So I'm going to tell you a funny story. So at that time, I did the transferable credits. Do you want to know when I attained my associate's degree? 1 year ago. After I had my PhD. So I'll tell you how that works. So Russ Cavaluna, the president of Henry Ford College.
Shout out to him, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Russ.
Yes.
I mean, he's doing a great job at the college, and thank you.
Yes.
So him and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about that. And he looked at me and he said, you can still get your associates. I said, Russ, I'm not taking any more classes. And he started laughing. So he had somebody look into it. And the irony behind it was I had enough credits based on the time frame.
Oh, wow.
So they gave me an associate's degree. So
did you go to the commencement?
Well, so the store, Russ says, hey, commencements are on this day. You're going to show up? And I said, I would, but I got to work. So when I received my associate's degree
I never knew that.
Yeah, it was just recent. So when I received my associate's degree in the mail last year, I took a picture of it and I sent it to my wife and my niece and my nephews and so we had this little chat. And my son responds back, the only PhD I know that just earned an associate's degree. So that's a funny story about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to come back to you, Youssef. Just give you a little break. I want to give a big shout out to all the audience out there. Thank you so much for your support. And without your support, we cannot move with a spot of hope as to be a very meaningful and great platform. So thank you. Also, big shout out to all the sponsors of WhatsApp Media Network, and big shout out to all the Spot of Hope sponsors. Ali Sharara, Sunshine 21. We've got Tahamas. We've got Mangoes, Lemo Express. We've got also Princess Bakery. All the great stuff, Youssef. Can you resist Tahamas?
Right now. I'm gonna go order something to eat.
or Princess Bakery or Mangoes, and great rides for your weddings and stuff like that from Lemo Express, Marwan Faraj, and
I will tell you, all these individuals you mentioned have been major supporters of the Crestwood schools and the Dearborn Public Schools.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Of course, they are awesome. So thank you all so much. So you got your associate degree. Congratulations.
I got my associate's degree at 42 years old.
and that's after your PhD. So
yes, it's a funny story I like to tell people because at that time,
nice.
at that time I was just all about transferring to Wayne State.
Yeah.
So then I went to Wayne State after I transferred, received my bachelor's of science in education, and I have a certification in secondary language arts and history. I then went to University of Michigan Dearborn for the Master's in Public Administration program through the Rackham School.
Oh, wow.
And the Rackham School's out of Ann Arbor, and it was really nice because they offered the courses in Dearborn.
Yes, I'm in that program right now.
Awesome. And that's actually the program I teach in right now.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I have my master's in public administration from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. And then I went back to Wayne State, attained an education specialist in English as a second language education,
Okay.
and a PhD in curriculum and instruction with a cognate in ESL, as well as a focus in public leadership.
Wow.
So that's, and my associate's degree from Henry Ford College.
I think that was the hardest.
The hardest?
The associate degree, right?
Honestly, it was, because it really was, though, to be honest with you, because I remember I was working, you talk about spot home, and this is what I like to tell students. Nothing comes easy.
Yeah.
And I tell my kids, you're lucky.
Absolutely.
And during that time when I was earning that associate's degree, though, I was working 60 hours a week, taking 12 to 14 credit hours.
Yeah.
But I was young, and I had the energy and the capability.
Plus, you
to
love
do
what
it.
you do.
I love what I do.
I mean, I can hear it, and people can see it and hear it.
Yeah.
So that's obviously no question about that, and that really what has made you today the guy that you are today, and hopefully way better in the future as well. So after you got all these degrees, what was your first job in your degree? Was it teaching?
So prior to completing my my teaching certificate at Wayne State University, I was a paraprofessional at Fortson High School.
Okay, so that's when?
That was when I transferred to Wayne State.
So that was like 1999?
Oh no, that was earlier. That was, but I appreciate you making me young. That was actually 1998.
Okay.
1998.
Okay, 1 year. Okay.
Yeah,
good guess.
actually 2 years.
Oh, 97?
I started, now 98 is when I went to Wayne State, became a paraprofessional, and then in 2000 was when I got my Bachelor's of Science, and I started teaching, and I taught all different levels, including AP, Advanced Placement.
In Fortson?
At Fortson High School.
At Fortson High School?
Yes, I was teaching language arts, Advanced Placement, and history.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did that for 6 years,
Okay.
at which point I then completed my master's in 2005.
Okay.
And then I applied for, with the support of Dr. Wajid Saad. I want to say something before I move on. Any success that I've had hasn't been because of me. It's because of people that have pushed me to be move in a certain direction, and because of the teams that I've been with.
Yes.
Success isn't an individual thing. My mother, my father, my wife. I mean, every success I have right now, honestly, is because of my wife. She has been so supportive.
What is behind that?
I don't know why, but she loves me as much as she does.
I mean, what is behind that? You saying that, and it's a delicious dinner, I bet, right?
Oh, well, no.
Big shout out to your wife.
Big shout out to my wife.
Yeah, we're gonna come to that in a little bit. Yeah.
But then I got into so I was teaching, and then I went into coordinator. I became coordinator of ESL and compensatory education for the Dearborn schools. I then became the principal of River Oaks Elementary School, which was a great experience, because there I truly learned what it takes to help a child read.
Yes.
I then had the honor of becoming the principal of Fortson High School, where I was able to, build off of the great things that, God rest his soul, Imad Fadallah was doing. Ali Yarhamu. He was doing some great things.
Yes.
I was able to build off of that and take it to the next level. And then I had the honor of becoming executive director of student achievement.
Yes.
And now, superintendent of Crestwood Public Schools.
Here we go.
Yes.
Here we go. And thank you for all your service.
Oh, thank you.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Looking back at when you used to be a student at Fortson, and you graduated back in 1994, and then 98, that where you started to be a parapro. What does that mean? How did that make you feel? From being a student to working there, from just going back all these memories. Did you did you imagine back then that you want to climb up the ladder more, or that was something that you were into? Being a parapro now, maybe I will become a teacher and that would be it.
Yeah.
So was that something that you were thinking about back then? So what was it like, Youssef Mosallam back then, between a student who graduated from that same building,
Yes.
and now he was, back in 1998, started as a parapro, and then your future ambitions?
When I went back to Fortson High School as a parapro, it was at the time that I knew I was going into education, so I knew I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
But when I got back to Fortson as a parapro, it finally hit me that no matter what I do in my life as a career, it has to have an impact. And when I went back to Fortson and I started working with the students as a parapro and then as a teacher, and I was lucky that that is the way it worked out. I had a purpose. And that purpose was that these students that grew up very similar to the way I grew up, or grew up with more need than I had, my purpose was to be someone that could be there for them, not just academically and for education.
To be a mentor.
But exactly, to be a
Yes.
mentor, socially and emotionally. You know, when I saw a young man or a young woman struggling,
Sure.
I felt that it was my responsibility to work with them.
And you have a great philosophy, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean
okay.
to interrupt you.
No, please.
You have a great philosophy. You know, you were talking about it before we got on live, where you were saying that you feel that you are not only responsible, as you just said it, for the students' academic needs, but also you have to make sure that they are full. They are like full in every single aspect. So that's much appreciated. So thank you.
No, it's my pleasure because I truly believe if a child doesn't have a full stomach and a full heart, academics are going to struggle.
Yeah.
And that's because academics are going to come late. Academics is not the first thing on their mind. And I always use the analogy. I say, imagine as an adult when you're hungry. As an adult, you can't focus as much, but you push through it. But when you deal with a child who is hungry and who doesn't know what food they're going to have in the next day or two, academics is not going to be the first thing on their mind. And if they don't have self-confidence, that's where the heart piece comes in. If they don't feel strong about who they are, academics is going to come later. So that's why I really believe that all students, all people, need to have a full stomach and a full heart in order to be successful in academics. And we need to have more, resources and supports from the state and the county and the city. And I know you work on that very hard to make sure that we have those resources. So I thank you, Khodr, for your lobbying and your work at those levels.
I do what I can do, seriously. But yes, I can't really agree. More with you. Our students are our future, and at the end, as much as we put into their plate right now from resources, hopefully it's going to be paid off when they are successful, and then we shall keep passing along this legacy.
Yes,
because just like how you were talking a minute ago about these people that helped in your success, before you got married, and all the administrators and your teachers and the mentors, and now your wife and stuff like that. Same thing. Exactly how we had people that we were leaning on. Also, our generation deserves somebody that they can lean on, and then so forth. So I thank you once again for having that philosophy, because teaching is not always about just feeding the mind 1 + 1 = 2, or how to form a complete sentence, but also, as you said, it's supposed to be in a very supportive environment. And that's really you demonstrate that, and that's why you are today a superintendent of Crestwood Public Schools.
Thank you.
So well earned and well deserved once again. Before we go to the commercial break, Youssef, I just want to talk with you about when you got that mindset. Okay, I wanna be in education, and then you went and you started to be a parapro, and you saw that you will do 1, 2, 3, and you wanted to help each and every single struggling student. After that, is that why you became a teacher for 6 years?
Yes. Oh, yes. And I had all intentions of being a teacher till the end of my career.
Okay.
When I first started out, I was coaching football. I was teaching. I was doing everything I loved to do. I loved it. And when you're a teacher, the great thing about it is, it's long hours. It's not easy work. As a high school teacher, you have 150 different students you work with every day.
Yes.
And every student has a different need. So you have to be on your toes.
Absolutely. That's what we call differentiated instructions.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And I have so much respect and admiration for teachers who day in and day out do what is needed to be done without recognition.
Yes, and big shout out to each and every single teacher in our community and everywhere, because again, they do a great job.
They do.
Yes.
They do. It's sad to say that too many times people want to attack public education.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I truly believe that every teacher that's in the classroom that has a belief in their child, they're doing things that are amazing, that go unnoticed.
Absolutely. And they deserve a better pay too.
Oh, I agree.
Yes.
But, you know,
I'm a firm believer of that, by the way. It's not just for the pay, because as you said, they do pay tireless, efforts and countless hours, for the sake of keeping up with everything. And they are eventually, working to to produce all of our future doctors, principals, presidents, surgeons, and you name it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Youssef, before we continue, I just want to let the gentleman go out for a short commercial break, and we'll be back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Spot of Hope with our one and only Dr.Youssef Mosallam, no longer Joe Mosallam. He's the current superintendent of Crestwood Public Schools. He's been there for a whole week now.
Yes.
Actually, 5 days. 6 days.
No, 6 days. Today was 6 days.
Exactly.
We're not going to count the weekends.
Exactly. That's why I mentioned, 6 days.
Yeah.
Exactly. So congratulations once again. He makes us all proud, and he's a part of our public schools. And he taught. He was a teacher. As we before the break, we're talking about his teaching career, and now we're gonna jump into his administrative career right now. But before that, I'd like to highlight all What's Up Media Network sponsors, Spot of Hope sponsors, Lemo Express, Tahamas, Mangoes, Princess, and Ali Sharara, Central 21. Thank you all so very much for your continued support to this program and to all the great efforts that you guys pay outside. So thank you so much. Youssef, before we jump back to serious talk, what is the story behind Joe and Youssef? So we used to all call you Joe at some point. And then when one time I was calling, I'm trying to get hold of Joe. And people were like, who's Joe? Joe Mosallam. No, don't call him Joe. Call him Youssef. So if you don't mind asking, what is the story behind that before we jump into the real talk?
No, it's a great story, to be honest with you. So as I said, my parents moved from the South End to the East End. I was one of the few students who came from, an Arabic-speaking background. So I went to Henry Ford Elementary School. Now, Henry Ford Elementary School right now is probably 90-something%, Arabic-speaking background students. Yeah. Well, I was there was maybe 1 or 2 Arabic-speaking background kids in my kindergarten class.
No kidding.
Yeah, and there weren't many in the school.
So you were advantaged.
Well, yeah, I was a true subgroup. Like, I was like the oddball.
Yeah.
And, as you know, my name's Youssef. So my kindergarten teacher would say Youssef, and I would always say, no, it's Youssef, whatever, go back and forth. So finally, my kindergarten teacher said, I'm going to call you Joseph. And I looked at my kindergarten teacher and said, I don't like Joseph. And she said, okay, I'm going to call you Joe. I said, okay, Joe it is. So growing up from kindergarten all the way through high school, everybody that knew me as Joe. And because I played sports, so people, like when I would go to class, the teachers already knew me because of sports and different things.
Yeah.
So like in roll call, they didn't say Youssef
celebrity.
Mosallam. Yeah, well, not that, but you just, you're out there, people know you. And so they didn't even do roll call. Like when they would see my name, Joe, and I'd be like, hey, I'm here. So Joe just stuck with me, and I let it be.
Nice.
So when I started college, the professors would say Youssef. And I didn't say, call me Joe, I just let it be. Call me Youssef. And as time went on, anyone that calls me Joe knew me as a kid growing up. Anyone that calls me Youssef,
college and on.
knew me from college and up. So from my professional career and up. So a funny story behind that is when I met my wife, she was at the mall with we were married at this time. She was at the mall with my first child. And my first child, everybody said she looks just like me. Well, she actually looks just like my mom. So a good friend of mine saw her at the mall, saw the child, saw my daughter Madeline, and said to my wife, is that Joe's daughter? My apologies. Is that Joe's daughter? Well, my wife doesn't know this guy, but he knew I was married and I had a daughter. And my wife goes, who's Joe? And he goes, Joe Mosallam. And my wife goes, "You mean Youssef?"
Yeah, Youssef.
So at first my wife's like, "Who's this Joe guy?" So it's a funny story I tell people, but that just shows you where it's just it was a cultural thing.
Yes, absolutely. No, I mean, again, I was calling you somewhere somehow. So I go, yeah, I'm looking for Joe. Who's Joe? Well, Joe was no, not Joe Youssef. Okay, I didn't know that he changed. That call. But yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's really great. I mean, that transformation from being in the kindergarten all the way to college, and then from now on, we'll be calling Youssef, which is a very nice name, by the way.
Thank you. I call it the dual identity theory.
Yes, Youssef. Yeah, in Arabic is Yusuf.
Yusuf,
yes, exactly. It's very nice.
Thank you.
So now we're gonna go back to the real talk.
Yes.
So you taught. Well, I mean, everything is real. Nothing is fake, but so.
It's real. It's real news.
Exactly. Exactly. So you taught for 6 years.
Yes.
And then what? Well, 2 questions. Were you able to help the students to overcome their struggles while you were being the best teacher that they've had? And number 2, why you switched from teaching to administrative?
So when I reflect upon my teaching career, I would say that my first couple of years I struggled. Okay. I struggled because going into a new classroom.
We're busier.
Yeah,
than you thought it.
100%. And at that time, new teachers didn't get the same amount of supports that new teachers get today. Like, we've come a long way in education, with professional development, professional learning, different things.
Yeah.
And I reflect back and I say, man, my first year teaching, if I was an administrator, I would have gave myself a low rating, because you always reflect.
Yes.
But then as the years went on, I hope that I made a difference in as many students' lives as I could in a positive way. I'm sure that there's some students that I say, please forgive me, I wish I did a better job. But that's just me being hard on myself too, because that's how I am. I'm very, I'm always reflecting on what I do and how I do things so I can always improve.
They all love you.
Well, I don't know if all do, but
they
those
all
that
love
do,
you,
that do, thank you.
And you did impact their life
Thank you.
some way, somehow. I'm
Thank
pretty
you.
sure, whether you were a teacher or an admin, and right now I'm pretty sure that the employees of the Crestwood and your administrative staff are very lucky to have someone like you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so you started the first couple of years.
Yeah, and then I think after that we started making some change. I picked it up. I started understanding. I started becoming much more better at time management. I attended more professional development, so I got better. And then when I was working on my master's degree, that also helped me with different things.
To develop.
Yeah,
yes. Absolutely. And then when was the point where you said, okay, I taught for 6 years. I struggled the first 2. I hated my life, and I did great the remaining 4. But now, when was it? Like, what was the turning point? So did you meet somebody while you were pursuing your master's, and that shed light, like open your eyes on, with a master's you can do an admin, for example, you can become an admin, or something like that, or like was it something that you were not planning to do?
So at the time, and currently, all teachers have to have continuing education credit.
Yes.
So when you become a brand new teacher, you just go work on your master's degree. So I had to make a choice. I wanted my master's degree to be in a field that I could actually use later on, possibly.
Yes, broad.
And I didn't want to be a counselor, and I didn't want. So I figured, I'll get a master's in administration, and it makes the most financial sense on my part. Plus, I can always have that if I ever want to go that route. The irony behind it, though, is when I was working on my master's in public administration, I had no intention of becoming an administrator. I was just doing it because I was improving my education. I was taking myself to the next level. But what ended up happening as time went on and I started learning more and more about education, I'm the type of person, I don't like to stand on the sidelines. If I see that I can make a change, then I'm going to actively be involved in that change. Dr. Youssef was the associate superintendent at the time of Durman Public Schools. And there was a position that was opening, and he saw some work that I did on committees, the teaching I did, and he came to me and he said, Youssef, I really think you should apply for this position. I said, Dr. Saad, I don't know if I'm the right guy for the job. And he's like, Youssef, there's something in you that you just apply for the position and let's see what happens. So I said, okay. I applied, and all of a sudden I was offered the position. And it was Dr. Artis was the superintendent at the time. Dr. Youssef was the associate superintendent. And that's when I became the coordinator of ESL, like compensatory education. When I became a coordinator, I really got a spark. And I got a spark because Dr. Saad, Dr. Krieger, who was also the other associate superintendent, and Dr. Artis, the superintendent at the time, they were so willing to teach that I learned so much from them. And then from there, I knew I was going to be in administration till the end of my career. But originally, I had not planned on doing so.
So one opportunity opened you a big door, and you took it one at a time, and you worked hard. You didn't take anything for granted, and you kept climbing up. So after that, you became principal again.
So River Oaks Elementary School, yes.
Okay, and then you came back to Fortson.
I did.
Man, what did Fortson do for you? So you can always come back to it.
It's home.
I know.
It was home.
I know, absolutely. I'm waiting for that answer.
Yeah. You know,
and that where you graduated from, you did your pro years, then.
It's where Fortson is what made me who I am today.
Absolutely. And let me ask you about that. What would it be the major change or impact that Youssef Mosallam made on Fortson High School today?
You know, I don't think, and I appreciate, you humble me with your praise, but it wasn't me. What it was when our team came into Fortson, we all knew and agreed that Fortson was on a positive trajectory. It was heading upward. God rest his soul, Imad Fadlallah, what he brought to Fortson was, he brought this sense of honor. Like, be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you come from. Be proud of your community. And what we did is we just took it to the next level. And what we did is we worked together, the teachers, the counselors, the administrators, everyone, with the student body to take it to the next level so that the students at Fortson would understand what Fortson truly means. How every immigrant population that came through the city of Dearborn went through Fortson. The Italians, the Polish, the German, the Albanian, the Arabic, they all went through Fortson. Fortson's history is a history.
It's 100 years.
Yeah, and it's a history of immigrant families.
And we have to work hard to make it another 100 years.
100%.
Yes.
And when you walk the halls of Fortson, and you look at the murals, and you look at the people that have graduated from Fortson.
I noticed that.
You see judges at the federal level, the state level, the local level, who came from immigrant families, from all different racial backgrounds. That's what Fortson is.
So you preserved the legacy,
Yes.
and you took it to the next level.
We had a saying. We created a saying. It was pride, tradition, and legacy.
Absolutely. Now, what do you tell people about Fortson today? I mean, obviously, it's all back to the student. Even before that, before the school, it's home. Depend on the household. But today, do you still follow with Fortson news and what's going on? And what do you tell people about Fortson?
What I tell people is exactly this, is that Fortson was what helped me be who I am today. And that, Fortson made me realize that I have to be proud of who I am. I have to respect the traditions of what got us to where we are. And I have to establish a legacy on what I'm going to leave behind.
Absolutely.
And with Crestwood, and I want to bring this up, I was meeting with parents, and we talked about what it means to be a Crestwood Charger.
Yes.
And that the traditions of the Crestwood community are they're so bright. There's so many great traditions. So many great people went through the Crestwood schools. And we're going to build upon that. And I truly believe that I learned that as a student, as a teacher, and as a principal at Fortson, because when we understand where we come from, we understand our roots, we have more understanding of why we have to work hard to go to the next level.
Yes, and let me also give you another shout out by someone that they told me repeatedly that Dr.Youssef Mosallam, I'm kind of having a hard time to forget the Joe, but Dr. Youssef Mosallam was not only sensitive and great to the general body students, but also special education students and the special education population, really received a great deal of his attention, meaning your attention and your care to their needs and their concerns and their academic issues. So thank you so much for that as well, because that's personal to me. Even might be a different challenge. If someone might be blind, someone might be deaf or in a wheelchair or autistic. Yet, personally, I do take it, because it's challenge at the end. So we thank you for being a very understanding and flexible admin. And this is going to take me to the next part of our talk, that is Crestwood. And before that, a little bit about public schools in Dearborn when you became the executive director of student achievements. What was all about? What was it all about? And then the Crestwood. But before that, Joe, I'm going to give you, I'm sorry, Youssef, I'm going to give you a brief break. I want to give a shout out to our audience. Thank you so much for each and every single comment. Youssef appreciates all your great feedback, all your great comments. We do as well over here. Please keep on watching, sharing, liking, and making comments on these videos and every single video, because we thrive our best to bring you the best of the best. And if you have any recommendations, any ideas, any suggestions, please do not hesitate to mention names. In the comment box, inbox it to us, whether to me, Khodr Farhat on Facebook, or to Hussein Hashim, or to WhatsApp Network. Any way, shape, and form you feel like you're comfortable, please make sure that you bring forward such great and inspirational stories. We need moving stories. We need to pump everybody with hope, with love and positivity in the midst of what the world is going through right now. And big shout out to all of our sponsors. We've got Prince's, Tahamas, Mangoes, Lemo Express, and Ali Sharara. So thank you all so much for supporting us since day one, since August 13th. That was the very first episode. And today we are October 29th and counting. Youssef, thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
So after Fortson High School, you went and you became an executive director of the student achievements, right?
Yes.
And you did that for how many years?
So I was the executive director for, why am I losing track of time? 4 years.
4 years. And then what was it all about? Was it like just to make sure that the students are still, achieving? And I mean, just like for somebody who's reading that title, student achievements, was it academic achievements or?
Achievement across the board.
Oh, okay. So everything.
Everything. It was looking at academic, social, emotional, looking at facility usage. It was literally an encompassing position where I worked directly with Dr. Maleko.
Yes. And shout out to Dr. Maleko and all the administration and all the teachers.
Yes. And what it was is the idea behind it was that I worked directly with Atzel Ford High School and all the schools that fed into Atzel Ford.
Yeah.
And moreover, I worked with special services. So I special education, ESL, Title I. And honestly, our focus was to ensure that there was inclusive education and professional development, systematic and systemic across the district. And we worked as a team. It was not just myself, but others. And it was when I made that decision to apply for that position, and I humbly earned that position. It was hard for me to leave Fortson, and because I was I had a family there. We were a family.
Yes.
But again, I go back to not wanting to sit on the sidelines.
Yes.
I looked at it as an opportunity for me to, not only help the students at Fortson, but to be a positive impact for the students across the district. And it was a difficult decision to make that move, but it was a decision that I felt would be helpful for the entire school community.
Public service,
yes.
The public interest.
Correct.
Which is the best that when any individual, Dr. Youssef, can do is that when he or she places the public interest, before their personal interest and personal gains. So that's really admirable. So thank you for that. And then you heard about the Crestwood, Ron. How did that go?
Well, so. The thing is, I never really saw myself becoming a superintendent until probably, my second year in the role as executive director, where I said to myself, this could be a possibility. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot in a great district.
And you can do a lot, yeah.
And I could probably do more. Mm-hmm. So I was actually overseas. It's actually the first time I left the country, other than Cancun in Canada, where I was overseas. I was in Lebanon and Saudi Arabia, in between the two. And I was back from Saudi Arabia in Lebanon a couple days before I was coming home because there was a delay in my flight. And I received an email from a good friend of mine who said, the Crestwood superintendency position has been posted, and I think you should think about applying. So I called my wife, and I said, what do you think? She goes, why are you asking me? Apply. And it was funny because, you know, when you make that decision to go for a superintendency, you really have to have the support of your family because
Yes.
it takes a lot of time. I became so excited because when I saw Crestwood, the Dearborn Heights community and the Dearborn community, I know we're separated by city lines, but the Dearborn Heights community and the Dearborn community is one community.
Yes.
We're all interconnected. The success in Dearborn Heights is the success of Dearborn, is the success of Wayne County. So again, I looked at it as an opportunity for me to get off the sidelines and to do something to give me a true purpose. And I will tell you, it was the best decision I have made in my career yet. I have been on the job now for 6 days. I'm excited. I love it. I love the community. I love the conversations I'm having with people. Not one person has said to me, we can't do that. Every person I've spoken with has said, let's do it.
Yes.
And there's no better feeling in the world. Like I get chills when I think about that. Because the Dearborn Heights Crestwood community truly, and the city of Dearborn Heights truly understands the effect of a great education and a phenomenal infrastructure for the whole community. And I'm excited. I know I went beyond what you asked me, but
It's good, no problem.
you know, and it's just, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I get up in the morning. I don't go to work. I go to my livelihood, you know, and I talk with people, and the days fly by. Like before I know it, I look up. It's 3 p.m. You know, and I'm looking at my calendar to make sure I don't got to pick up one of my kids from school because I don't want them to be stranded for an hour. But it's a great feeling, and again, I'll tell you, I didn't have aspirations to become a super. I mean, people would tell me, oh, you know, you should think about it. But not until probably my second year as an executive director did I say, you know, maybe that is my next step.
Sure.
And Crestwood was, to me, a perfect fit.
Awesome. And that's going to be for the next 3.5 years, and hopefully for the next.
Hopefully a lot longer. My current
Yes.
contract is a 3.5-year contract, which is, you know, common practice for superintendents. You know, 3 years is common practice. And the goal is I plan to be there, you know, for a decade, you know, 10 years, if not longer.
I hope 20 years.
I
And
hope
30
yeah,
years.
Yeah. You know, as long as the board will have me.
They're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And also you are lucky to be there. I mean, given all the great stuff that you've been talking about, the staff and the spirit and the environment, because you need both factors.
Yes.
Hardworking people, ambitious people, and supportive environment.
Yes. And like I said, I'm looking at this being a long-term
Yes.
venture.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this question about that. I know that you've been 6 days only, but how things looking beside that's being supportive? You know, like did you get your agenda going? Okay, we've got this priority first, second priority, and of course, if you can mention, you know, I mean, but we're not asking for specifics. We're
Yeah.
just talking in general.
Of course.
You know, like so now, did you create a vision already?
So,
A clear vision, rather.
yeah, so, you know, first off, it's been very productive and very positive. You know, I've been working with 7 board members who are phenomenal.
Yes, shout out to Nadia.
Yeah, Nadia,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes,
Salwa
and Salwa
Fawaz.
Fawaz, yes.
Doc-
Especially, I mean, not to be biased by any means, but because I heard that they also paid really great deal of efforts in supporting this cause.
Well, you know, I would say all 7 board members.
And
did.
of course, you know, since I only know these 2, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that, you know, because I just don't want to, you know, thank the other 5, not by any
No,
means,
no, of
you
course.
know, and I'm sorry if I came across that way, as not my intention. Because I know Nadia and Salwa, you know, but of course, big shout out to all the 7 members.
Thank you, yes.
You know, and you know, for making this great decision.
You have 7 board. You had, you know, Trustee, you know, Garcia, who
Yes.
is, you know, has been an advocate for every one of us has been an advocate for many years.
Garcia, is it? What's his first name?
Ed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Ed Garcia. Yes,
Yeah.
we've met.
Yes. Board President Donna Ansenek. You have Board Trustee Lynn Snea. You have Board Trustee Colleen Krasanik, and you have Board Trustee Sue Krasanik. And these 7 board members, they have really, all 7 board members have really brought me in with open arms.
Yes.
And we've had some great conversations. we've been talking about the future. We've been talking about now and where we're going to go. And I'll tell you, as a superintendent, you know, and I said this in my interview with the board, as a superintendent, you know, the superintendent and the 7 board members are an 8-member team. They're an 8-member team, part of a larger team for the whole school district. Wow. And they have all 7 board members, and President Donna Ansonek has been phenomenal with this because she has a lot of knowledge. And, you know, they have been working to get us where we are moving in a direction with a positive momentum. And it's really nice. Like yesterday's board, we had our first board meeting yesterday as superintendent. And it was great because at yesterday's board meeting, you know, we were laughing and we were joking. And at the end of the board meeting, we were cracking some jokes. And it was nice. And I looked at the board and I said, I hope that we're continuously laughing and joking moving forward, even though we're going to have some difficult decisions to make. But as long as we're making those difficult decisions with the students' best interest in mind, yes. And I believe all 7 board members have the students' best interest in mind. And I think that, you know, we're going to continue to build a strong public school foundation.
Absolutely.
You know, so I'm excited to work with all the board
awesome.
members.
Yes. Absolutely. We are really so happy. And, you know, when I first heard about, you know, the news that you were chosen, I immediately, you know, like a lot of people, you know, went ahead and I was so happy and I just really exploded on Facebook.
Thank you.
You know, thanking all the 7 board members
yes,
and
thank you.
Thanking, you know, for making such a great decision. Again, they're lucky to have you and you're lucky to be among such talented and well-educated individuals as well.
Yes,
so we are so happy for you. Dr. Youssef, we get to the last few minutes.
Yes.
Man, this hour flew by just
already? Wow.
Just like how your day flies by, right?
Yeah.
So what would be a last remark, you know, to our community, to our younger generation, to our parents? So, I mean, it's yours. Just the last minute is yours.
You know, I could sit for hours and talk about, you know, where we need to go as a community, but, you know, just in general. Whatever you do in your life, whatever direction you had, don't focus that around money. Money is not something you're going to take with you. Money is something that helps you live and be successful with, you know, health and happiness, but money doesn't bring happiness. When you make a decision on what you want your future to be, you have to think of 4 things. And these are 4 things that I tell my own children. So what I'm saying to everyone is what I preach to my own children. There's 4 things in life that you really have to focus around. And those 4 things is your family, your education, your faith, and your health. You see, because those 4 things, if you don't have a balance in those 4 areas, no matter how much money, no matter how much work you do, you will never be happy. Your family are the only ones that are always going to be there for you. Your faith is going to get you through difficult times. Your education is going to allow you to grow. And your health is going to allow you to get through times physically, mentally, and emotionally. That's the same thing I tell my children at home, and that's the message that I would give everyone. Everything after that is icing on the cake. Because when you do those 4 things and you focus on what's right, your needs will always be taken care of. And God willing, you'll have some additional things for your wants.
Awesome. Youssef, I don't know, I mean, any better way to end our shows. Thank you so much, Dr. Youssef Mosallam.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
We completely congratulate you once again for the 1 trillionth time. I know that you're sick of saying, you know, congratulations, but
well, I just want you to know.
Well earned,
thank
well
you.
deserved.
Thank you. It's the people in my life have helped me get to where I am today.
Absolutely, and big shout out to all of your family members, your wife.
Yeah, my wife. Make sure my wife.
She's your house superintendent, I bet. Yeah. God bless you. God bless your kids, your mom and dad, your in-laws, everybody else.
Thank you.
And wish you nothing but more success, prosperity. If we can be of any assistance, if we can be of anything here at What's Up Media Network, please do not hesitate to reach out. We love to shed the light on great stories of your district as well. Since, as you said, and as we all believe, we are all one community, even if, you know, borderlines, you know, divide us on the map. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this great episode of A Spot of Hope. For this Tuesday, we had let me allow me to call him the Honorable Dr.Youssef Mosallam because you truly
No.
resemble great
Thank you.
dedication, and you laid the foundation for such a great legacy. So thank you once again, and we want to thank all the sponsors of What's Up Network, Sling Arabic TV, over 130 Arabic channels, including BM Sports. If you want to get a free membership for a whole week, all you got to do is to get in touch with the What's Up Network staff. Our audience, thank you so much, and also our sponsors, Lemo Express, Mangoes, Tahamas, Princess Bakery, and Alisha Laura, Center 21. Thank you all so very much, and stay tuned for our next week with another great guest. Good night, everybody.